You're listening to All Hands on Tech. Come along as we get to know the people and businesses behind the province's ever-expanding tech sector.
Each episode, we'll chat with local experts to uncover the hidden gems that make Nova Scotia a hub for collaboration, innovation, and creativity.
All Hands on Tech is proudly produced by Digital Nova Scotia, the industry association for Nova Scotia's growing tech sector. Hey, thanks for joining us for another episode of All Hands on Tech. I'm Eilish.
And I'm still trying to learn how to grow a beard, but you can call me Greg. And today we've got an episode all the way from Montreal, or at least our guest is.
That's right. Today we're talking strategie, Nucleus Strategie, to be exact. How is my French? We'll talk about that in a second. Simply put, Nucleus helps mid-sized businesses move forward digitally, offering support in technology planning, user-friendly design, project management, data insights, and so much more.
Founded in the heart of Little Italy, Montreal, Nucleus has recently made its way east with a Nova Scotia expansion. And here to tell us all about it is Nucleus founder Clement Roy.
Hello, sir.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm very good. How are you?
I am good. Was my attempt at French very good?
Superb.
I practiced a lot. And it was still terrible, you can be honest. Thank you for...
There's room to improve.
Okay. Well, listen, maybe throughout the conversation, we will improve on my French today.
All right.
But we have a lot to talk about. You guys have a lot of exciting stuff happening right now. But before we get to all of that exciting stuff, we always like to try and start off our podcast by getting to know the person behind the product or the company or the organization. And that, of course, is you. Mm-hmm. So we have a couple icebreakers. Are you ready for them?
Yes.
Okay, Greg, let's go first with you.
If you could have any animal as a pet, no limits, anything, what would it be and why?
I really, really love cats.
Okay.
And so I would go with a very big cat.
Okay.
Are we talking like just like a huge
tiger?
house cat? Yeah, or tiger?
No, like more like a tiger or a leopard. A leopard.
A
leopard. Cool.
Yeah, because they're very rare and beautiful.
My former high school, we were the Cheetahs.
Yes.
Charles P. Allen, shout out to the old high school.
And
we had a chem professor who would say CPA is home of the Cheetahs, not the cheaters. Every time we would do a test, so... love a good big cat.
Love a good big cat. Okay, so we're starting with a leopard. We love that. If you had to eat one type of cuisine for the rest of your life, what would it be?
Oh, Japanese, for sure.
Ah.
Yeah.
I like that you, no hesitancy there.
Yeah.
That's a
No
question that you
hesitation.
knew the answer to.
I love Japanese cuisine. They have a lot of different produce, and they have the highest life expectancy on the planet, so there's probably a reason for that.
Fair point.
Yeah, a lot of really fresh, really good nutrients, I feel. Okay, my thought was I would go for Italian because there's so many options, but all of them are carb based.
See, if I could live off one type of food, it'd be dumplings. I love dumplings. My neighbor's from Beijing. Yes. She's brought me over to show me how to hand roll them and make them. It's my favorite food. Amazing. By far. So you must be a big seafood guy if you like Japanese.
Oh, only fish.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah, only fish.
So no shellfish, that sort of thing?
Yeah, I don't really like other types of seafood. I should not say it.
I know you're in Nova Scotia, right?
Hey, that's okay.
I love lobster. That's one. I love lobster, but the rest of the seafood I have
I feel like you're being held against your will to say that you love lobster.
No,
it's okay if you
true.
don't.
No, I do love lobster. I also love scallops, but I'm allergic to them. So.
Oh.
Okay, we have this in common. I make the joke all the time that I'm the worst maritimer because I'm allergic to shellfish. So I can't partake in any of it. And it's an allergy that kind of happened a little bit later on in my life. So I used to be able to eat it and I used to love it. But now that I'm an adult and would, go out to a restaurant and order it, I can't. So it's okay. We'll get through this maritime life together.
All right.
So what would you prefer, email or a phone call for primary communication? Whether it's personal, I guess not so much email would be kind of weird, emailing your friends back and forth, but are you a email or would you rather talk to someone on the phone?
Oh yeah, I'm really old school about that. I love a good phone call.
Okay.
Awesome.
I remember the time before the pandemic where we used to call each other all the time.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I would call my clients and now they just text me back, send me an email, please.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I really like that communication that we can have when we're speaking with people. Mm-hmm. And sometimes it's just instead of exchanging 20 emails, they just have a 5-minute phone conversation.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It can definitely wrap things. Yeah, absolutely.
And then the one thing I find too is, in an email, I find it hard to find that balance of, okay, when I'm typing this, with proper, grammar, am I coming off as being a little like cold?
Yeah.
Or,
Yep.
you know, so
It's hard
sometimes
to
I'll
read the
throw
tone.
like exclamation points or something, and people are probably like, wow, this guy must be like just full of Mountain Dew.
all the
and
Red Bull.
just, yeah, all Red Bull ready to go, you know, full tilt. But I think that's from my account management background in the
Yeah.
past, like dealing with people, is that I feel like I need to showcase, you
Yeah.
know, that I'm being friendly versus, you know, a plain email. There's no emotion behind it. So a phone call, like, just so
Yeah.
much better. You get tone, you get all that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is true. I see from a different perspective. I feel that as a woman, to be taken seriously, if I am in an email communication, I write my email and then I go back through and I delete a bunch of exclamation points because I'm like, they're not going to take me seriously. So again, it's that tone, right?
Interesting.
Yeah.
That actually would be a great topic for another chat. You know,
You could
Yeah.
also like take ChatGPT, take your email, put it into it, and
Yeah.
ask him to make you
Yeah.
sound nicer
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
less intense.
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah, I've totally done that. I've absolutely used AI to, you know, change the tone of something, or like with my prompts when I am using it, I always say like, you know, write this in a lighthearted, playful way, or like write this in a more professional, you know, kind of newsier tone. I totally do that.
I actually I have a partner, another company. I'm not going to name them, but every email they send out is written by AI. They don't write email anymore. They ask ChatGPT. They take the email they receive, they put it in ChatGPT and say, answer for me, add this information, and then they send it back.
So how do you feel about that? Because
Yeah.
I've seen people write me an email, and we have, every time we have like a town hall with our, like internally, we'll showcase, hey, here's some new tools that are out there in the market, interesting things to check out. Here's a fun website where you can plug in, you pull content, you put it in there, and it'll say what the probability is that it was generated by AI. And sometimes it's like 90%, 100%, and you're like, oh, someone didn't really put in much effort. And then other times it's a mix, and you're like, okay, you know, supplementing.
Well, I think AI is all about training it to be like to give you the correct answer that you're looking for. So let's say like use ChatGPT. You know, you could like take all the emails that you've sent in the past 2 years, feed them into the system, and tell them that's my way of talking, that's my way of answering, this is my vocabulary. And then every time he's going to answer with your tone of voice. And then you can just prompt it with the right information, the things you want to say. So I think it's actually a very useful tool. If you forget to put some of yourself into it, then it's going to be cold and it's not going to be working.
Yeah.
But if you're just asking him to reproduce, and I said him, but it's actually it. But you know, we try to.
Yeah, the French language. I know you guys assign. Look, I know a little bit about the French language.
So if you actually ask him to personalize what you're gonna ask, it's gonna make all the difference.
For sure.
Interesting. Yeah, you and I talked about that, about having a little bit of a chat about AI in this conversation too. So I'm glad we got to that right off the jump. Okay, let's get into the formal questions because we've got a lot to cover. You guys are doing a lot right now. And again, before we get into the actual company itself, you have just the most fascinating background to me. We talked about this at one of our mixers where you and I actually met. When it comes to how you have gotten to this point in your career, it's not the most traditional in a sense. So can you tell us a little bit about how you've gotten to this point?
Yeah, of course. I mean, I'm going to have to go back all the way to the end of high school. So I finished my studies and then I left for studies after high school, which is called Cégep in Quebec. I don't know if you have the equivalent. It's just before university. And I was studying in communications. And then I was also working in a local radio and a local TV. And I realized that what I was learning at school and the field experience I was getting was very, very different. And so I thought to myself, there's no point in staying in school, so I'm just going to leave. So I was 17 and I left school. I then left across Canada, so I hitchhiked 4 times across the country during 2 years.
Crazy.
Went all the way up to Yukon to pick morels mushrooms, and
Wow.
at that point of my life, I didn't like mushrooms either. So I think we were talking about seafood earlier, and just tie it up together. And so after those 2 years of traveling around, I even went all the way to an ashram in Quebec, followed like an Indian guru, learned meditation, and it really helped me, I think, to understand like how to stay calm and like be more in the depth of who we are as persons. Then I was like, well, I need to do something with my life, of course, because I was 19 at that point. So I started working in the arts and culture space, helping some of my friends that had a circus festival. So I learned communication and marketing mostly by working with them.
Okay.
So really
Very
good,
hands-on.
really hands-on. I mean, what's the best marketing of that? Like, I'm going to send a bunch of circus artists in the town to promote the show. You know, that's like kind of learning how to really be effective with what you do. And also it's a place where budgets are very, very tight. Mm-hmm. So you have to be creative. You have to find different ways of actually communicating and getting the message across. So, and then afterwards, I decided that that could be actually my job. So I opened my first agency. But something that is very important to know about that is that I was always an entrepreneur. When I was at school, I was buying candies from the candy shop, then going back into the yard and then selling them. You know, so I was already
Make a little profit.
already making a bit of a profit. And at first I was even like, I should not say it, but whatever. I was actually stealing them. But then at some point I was like, oh, there's too much risk involved. Okay. So then I started buying them, realizing I could do the profit all the same.
Oh my God.
So already thinking about risk management when I was 7 or 8.
That's incredible. I love that.
So and then from my first agency, I actually went bankrupt 2 years later. So I was 22, first business bankruptcy. I mean, I think one thing that I learned in my life is like fail fast and fail as much as you can, as quick as you can, because then you're going to learn. And failing when you're 22 years old and you're just starting your career is not a big deal. Failing now when I have a bit of a bigger company, and I'm 30 now, so it would be a bit more complicated. So I was very, very happy to fail that fast. And so then I grew my agency afterwards. I just restarted. And did that until COVID. We did a lot of different things, from communication, marketing, event planning, event creation. So I did a lot of different things during that time. And then COVID came. I left that field or that career to focus on something that really, really meant something for me, which was helping nonprofits to raise money. So I spent 2.5 years as a consultant during COVID, helping nonprofits to build their campaigns. And I really realized that a lot of things that I had in marketing and communication that we take for granted in a private world are not things that are known in the nonprofit space. Mm-hmm. So I really had a good time bringing all those expertise and understanding to the nonprofit world. And then I realized that they also had a very big issue, is that they do not know how to manage their digital affairs. And so I realized that with nonprofit, but also with SMBs, and that's how Nucleus was actually born, from seeing a need on the market that nobody was catering to, and wanting to actually help those people to have like a good partner for all their digital needs.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, just pause on that next question. I know you're ready for it, but just really quickly, I do want to ask: did you ever find that not having that, physical piece of paper saying you graduated from XYZ education-wise, did you ever feel like that was a barrier for you?
Oh yeah, of course.
Okay.
It was first of all, it was a psychological barrier.
Yeah.
Because then you have to make yourself understand that it's not because you don't have a diploma that you're less than other people. Mm-hmm. But it's something that really, really turned around quickly for me, because I never actually stopped learning. And so when I left school, I made myself a promise. It was, okay, you're going to leave school, but you're going to work twice hard to actually learn something. Mm-hmm. So I never actually stopped learning. So I took a lot of different other courses, read a lot of books, and a lot of field experience. So this was something that, I had to cope with for a while, the imposter syndrome.
Yep.
How do you say that correctly?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, okay.
Yep.
And
it translates.
Yeah. And then afterwards, I think the hardest part when I was 20, 21, 22, I had a baby face, no diploma. You go and you see a 50 years old businessman, and you're like, I'm going to help you with your marketing.
Yeah.
And they look at you and they're like, sure.
Yeah.
Where did you go to school? Well, I left school at 17. So
Yeah.
But so that actually was quite hard at the beginning. And once you have a bit of experience and you have a good portfolio, then that goes out the door.
Yeah.
But I also had quite a lot of chances in the timing that I was in, because 10 years ago was actually when companies were starting to understand how social media's digital marketing was actually really going to be something huge.
Yeah.
And so they were not going to ask their 50 years old marketer that they were working with for 25 years. They were going to ask the young guy how to do digital marketing, because this was like a more knowledgeable in terms of just being born in that generation.
Yeah, absolutely.
It is interesting, like to your point where you say, like, you know, at that age, having that baby face and talking to people and them taking you seriously. You know, for anyone who knows me, they always see me dressed up in a suit. That's just kind of my style. I love expressing myself through colorful ties or pocket squares or whatever it may be. But it all started when I was at my first agency and I was just out of school. I started the week before I graduated, and I was meeting with big clients around the province, and that gave me the feeling of confidence to say, you know, people would take me a bit more seriously because I was dressed up, and I just kind of stuck with it. And then every time I threw on a suit, I felt as though, okay, I'm it's like throwing on a hockey jersey. I'm ready to be sort of in that zone, and that means that I'm in and focused. And you know, it is funny. That is a thing when people are coming onto the scene. They might have so much more knowledge on emerging technologies than someone who's been in the industry for, you know, and focused on particular areas for 20 plus years or 15, 10, whatever it may be. But if they give that person a chance, they can, you know, it's the whole don't judge a book by its cover. So very interesting for sure.
Yeah.
So, you know, we've learned a little bit about your background, how Nucleus came to be. So I've gotten to know you guys very well over the last little while in my role, but for anyone who's listening, what services do you offer and what sort of clients do you work with? I know you touched on that a little bit, so could you give me a little bit more details on what are the core services that you guys offer and how are you guys supporting your clients? Yeah,
so we have strategy in our name, right? So the first part of what we do is we actually sit down with our clients that are mostly SMBs and nonprofits and go through how are they going in terms of you know, their digital affairs. We'll call it like that. So is their website up to date? Do they have a mobile app project that is not picking up on the ground? Is there anything that is blocking their way or things that they can improve? So first of all, we really take the time to take a look at where they are, either by looking at globally the whole company, or sometimes they come with a specific problem. Like we have a client in Montreal came to us, said, look, I have this 15 years, for 15 years I've been building this system, which is a legacy system that they use for their day-to-day operations, and we need to change it all. And we've started 2 years, like I think, you know, so they started a year ago working with 2 firms to actually rebuild those systems, and things were not going well at all. So we came in and we redid the UX, really took a time to ask the right questions that were not asked when they started the development, and then handle things. And we became kind of their CTO during that time. Awesome. So we really have this first part, which is the strategy and the connection with the client. So we really act as consultants, but we can really be in the team. And then we have this whole other services, which is like we actually build platforms, we build tech, we build websites. Like it could be as simple as a simple website, but we can go all the way to a fundraising complex platform or a mobile app. We've actually are in the process of launching an app for an artist in Quebec, and it's with augmented reality, so you can actually see the art on the wall. So you take your phone and you put it towards the wall, and you can see the art on the wall itself.
So then, like, you can picture it in your space then.
Exactly, that's exactly the idea.
Amazing.
So we have a big range of services. I would say like our team is really tailored to be able to touch a lot of different things when we talk about tech. And then we have outside partners for everything that is communication, marketing, and other of those points. So we really want to have like a tech focus in the company.
How big is your team these days?
So right now we're 12. We're growing. So we're 12 in the core team, and then we have consultants and outside people working with us as well.
Okay. Something I wanted to kind of touch on. You and I had this conversation when we were talking about having you on the podcast. Is the side of things that you see when you are kind of doing, you know, that consultant side, the digital ecosystem that you're finding people aren't necessarily looking at the entire picture, whereas they're kind of maybe more so looking at it in single silos. Can you kind of explain a little bit about that and why it's important to be able to view it all?
Yeah, it's actually a very good point to bring. Like often when we work with executives, so we work with either like general manager, presidents, or VPs, and they often have a very silo way of looking at things. They're going to be looking at their website from a communication perspective, but then someone else on their team is looking at their website from a fundraising perspective. Then they're going to be looking at their CRM on one side, and then on the other side they have a few automation processes in the company, but they're not speaking with each other. They have this a very, very good client relation management system, but their invoicing is done by hand. So there's a lot of different points when we look at the digital ecosystem of a company that we realize that the mindset of entrepreneurs and business owners and managers is not looking at digital as an whole ecosystem. They're looking at it by either problems or opportunities. So I have a problem, I need to fix it. I have an opportunity, I need to take it. But I haven't met a lot of companies that have a real digital plan, a real tech strategy to be able to really create an ecosystem that talks to itself with a very good vision of how tech can bring them in 10 years, 15 years, and 20 years. And that kind of thinking can be a problem for companies because as the technology is going to move faster and faster and faster, companies that have those kinds of digital plans and understanding that their technology is an ecosystem around your whole company, they're going to be moving forward faster, they're going to be more competitive, and companies that are not doing that kind of process right now are going to have to do it at some point when their competitors are going to be ahead.
Yeah,
so
already falling behind.
I think there's really a good moment right now for companies to actually take a step back, take a bit of time to think about that, and really realize that their mindset has not been on looking at digital affairs as a whole, but really they've been focused on problems and opportunities.
And I feel like it's probably not necessarily the easiest strategy to implement when you've got, you know, dedicated team members, or if you're an entrepreneur, you're trying to do it all yourself. But if you've got a team that it's like, okay, you know, I'm communications and marketing, Greg is, you know, member engagement. He and I, like, you know, we try to really communicate and stay in constant communication with one another and constantly update one another of like, hey, I'm working on this, or hey, I've spoken to Clement and he's interested in coming on the podcast. Like having that open line isn't always easy when you are, you know, as busy as oftentimes we all are.
Yeah.
It's tough to have that 10,000 foot view. And I think some of the things that you guys have touched on in your materials, especially coming from your guys' background in UX, is thinking about, you know, digital assets and what you're doing beyond just digital, but everything, you know, that touches, you know, a piece of your company from the lens of your consumer's journey, your customer journey, and saying, okay, well, you know, as people are thinking and feeling about, you know, the types of products or services that we want to offer, throughout that process, what are the different touch points and what are the different, you know, mediums that we need to use? Digital is one of them, but then how does digital supplement some of the, you know, other components of a business, and, you know, how do they all work together in unison to enhance? And sometimes it's hard to do that when you're thinking of things as, you know, okay, well, my website is my brochure, but that also could be a lead generation, or you know, you could be having white papers on there to get people, you know, educating them, and then ultimately driving sales or leads, or just getting them involved or fundraising, you know. So being able to look at it from the perspective of your consumers or your customers' journey ties back into so much of probably where a lot of the strategy piece comes in. And most people will say, okay, well, we know we need to redo a website, and it's easy to build a brand new flashy website, but without a purpose, what is the point? Right? And
I mean, technology is a tool, so if you don't have a purpose, there's no point in using it. And I think you're touching on a very, very good point. And it's actually something that most people can actually do, take that consumer position and go through what's the process their consumer are going to when they work with them, and at which step do they have to interact with either the company or some of the company tools like a website, and what is the feeling that the consumer is supposed to have when you look at it from the brand perspective. But then if you look at your real experience, you're going to see right away what is working and what is not. And outside of the consumer, I would also add is something that, because a lot of people are asking like about digital transformation, automation, AI inside the company. So that work that you can do with your consumer, your clients, you can also do with your employees and your team. So if, let's say I'm talking about my financial director, if I put myself in his shoes, he gets in the morning, what is he going to do? What are the different tasks that he has to do? And what about the tasks in there that are really, really tedious or are giving him a hard time? How can I actually bring technology to help him out, to make him smile more and be more happy when he talks about numbers?
And that's what we want, to be happy talking about numbers.
Absolutely. No, that's fantastic. Well, you guys have recently expanded from Montreal to Nova Scotia. And just looking, for, our membership base or folks sort of who are listening to this across Nova Scotia or maybe even beyond, what made you want to come over to the East Coast in the first place?
Oh, it's a very, very good story.
Let's hear it.
So it was all about Greg.
Wow. It's gonna make me blush.
Yeah. So we were actually in Toronto. So with Alexis. So Alexis is our director of web services, and he's been living in Halifax for the past 3 or 4 years. He came here for love. He's happily with someone here who's from Nova Scotia.
That's how we get yous. That's how we get all of yous.
Yeah. I mean, it's a gorgeous place to be too, but I understand. And so he was actually one of our first hires, and we worked with him remotely for quite a bit of time. And then so we were together at Collision in Toronto, and we had this crazy idea of like, oh wow, well, it would be nice for you to have colleagues or clients or people you can actually meet in Halifax, in Nova Scotia. Let's figure out if ever there's an opportunity for us there. So we took the Collision app, and we wrote Nova Scotia, and then we got the 9 or 10 people that were there.
This man's picture showed
and this
up.
man was there. And so we kind of hit a bit everyone, and then Greg answered right away. And also the folks at Invest Nova Scotia, like Lisa Dobson, we actually also met her there. So we had a very good meeting, so really good moment. We started walking, talking. He was actually wearing this exact costume, I think, representing the colors.
Some nostalgia.
So we had a great time. We're like, wow, and every person we met from Nova Scotia was very, very nice and kind and open. So that was like a first very good feeling. And then there was a lot of good talk about possible business opportunities here. So 3 weeks later, I think, I call him up and I say, oh, we're coming to Halifax. We're going to do a recon mission. So we came here, met with a lot of people, all facilitated by Digital Nova Scotia. And
Was that at our ESO rooftop summer mixer?
Maybe like a little bit before. I think you have.
It was before because
week,
I think we came in afterwards for the mixer as well.
Yes. Yeah.
But being a member and being a new member, you guys really opened the doors for us. You gave us a lot of names to actually go and talk to. So we diligently wrote to them all on LinkedIn and got connected. It's easy when someone's childhood friends is telling you to. And so we realized that there was a need here, and that there was an open place, because our goal was not to come here and steal anyone's job. It was to come here and see if we could add value to the ecosystem with expertise that are less present. And so what we saw is that there's a place for us, and there's definitely a need. So we came that first time, and then I've been here every 3 weeks since. So that was in the summer, and we opened our office a few weeks after, and we signed our first 3 clients a month ago. So
Amazing.
things are going well.
Congratulations.
That's
Thank
great.
you.
Okay, so we need to talk about this then, because it's fantastic. We've talked about it on the podcast with a couple other folks as well, that, you know, there's this idea that people, you know, come to Nova Scotia. We might be a little biased having, you know, grown up here, but we're a great place to learn and to work. But a lot of times we see, you know, that talent leave, whether it be, you know, cost of living or salaries not keeping up or what have you. But you're doing the opposite. You are actively moving in here. You're here, even though you yourself are really based out of Montreal. You are every 3 weeks. The elephant in the room is that's not a cheap endeavor for you to actually be putting the time in to make the efforts to come here. So why is it so important to you that you have that physical presence here, along with, I mean, you've been at all of our mixers that we've had since you guys became members. I know that you've been here networking aside from that as well. You know, you're going to be at the Tech Forward Awards will have already happened by the time this goes to air, but you're coming, you know, you're here this week for that as well. You flew in to Nova Scotia to sit down physically and have this conversation with us. You could have connected virtually, but you chose to be here. Why? Why is that so important?
I guess I'm falling in love with the province, and
I told
That's
you.
Nova
That's how we
Scotia if
get
you're
it.
listening.
well, of course, Halifax is a great city. I love the vibe and the energy, so I think part of me likes to come back here. I'm going to answer your question, but I'm going to do a little anecdote before.
Yeah.
So I'm from Brittany, so my parents and my family is from Brittany in France. I spend all my summers on the coast. And so in Montreal, we're so far away from the ocean that coming here, having that breathe in of that
homey,
air is
hey?
actually,
Nice.
feels really great. So that might be the reason why I'm coming.
Okay. Yeah.
No. Joke apart, I think it's, we've really seen an opportunity to grow in the Atlantic provinces. Halifax is also a great base for us to be able to start expanding in the U.S. We're actually having a first U.S. contract coming in, and we'll hire a programmer from Halifax to do the job.
Fantastic.
And it's also a great place, a great base of operation to start having a English-speaking team, so we can also work with the rest of Canada. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of strategic things for us to be working here. We're also closer to Europe than Montreal, and so we also have this really very important element with language. So in Quebec, my team is mostly francophone. We're bilingual, but French is our first language. Here, the idea is to build a team where English is their first language. If we can have bilingual people who can speak French, I'll be more than happy to do. But it's also to be able to expand to global markets a bit more easy with the language. It's also giving us those capabilities. And on the local market, it's also important for us to be able to grow a presence here with a real presence. I don't want to be like a Toronto company sending one rep, just doing sales, and then taking that money and leaving with it. Idea is really, if we're building trust and building relationship in a business community, we want to be able to have impact in that business community, and we want to be giving jobs to people that are here, that's going to be able to have that proximity with their clients, but also just because it just makes sense on a business perspective to not be taking those jobs away, and actually to be like an actor in building, the digital Nova Scotia of tomorrow.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
And I will say, from my standpoint, obviously, I speak with a lot of our members and non-members as well, going to some of these events that we have and others put on. And, I don't know how many times I've gone to an event. We were at the CGLCC event, the Business Symposium last week, and you guys were there, and one of your new partners in Irene Salandra, who was recently on our podcast as well. We're big fans of Irene. Was there as a speaker, had a lot of really great speaking points, but then it just shows that you guys are willing to put in the time to show up, but also, as part of that, you guys had offered, all of the different businesses in that queer community a chance to have a free consultation with Nucleus, so that they could have the opportunity to have that without necessarily needing to go out and pay for it, and sharing that advice. It's it's such a great Nova Scotian quality that I feel like you've tapped into. People want to help people because not only does it make them feel better, but it's nice to see other people succeed. And you see that a lot of times in what we do with DNS from the career development standpoint is we want to see people succeed in their careers and get hired and make a connection. And if I can make an introduction and you can get hired somewhere, wow, will that feel good for me, but really more so excited for you. And you guys have been putting in a lot of work on that. So it's great to, have you on here and recognize that today, because I think in a short period of time, you guys have had a big impact. And, not-for-profits, the common thing that comes up is impact of, donor dollars. Where does that go? And I think in terms of the sort of core, purpose of what you guys are doing, you guys are really showcasing that it's, you're putting your money where your mouth is. Absolutely.
And the perfect segue into our next question. Thank you, Greg, for that. You and I, we discussed this when we had our conversation again. Nucleus Culture, which I think is just an incredible initiative that you guys have taken on. Can you tell us, for the folks who are listening who might not be familiar, tell us what that is, and then give us the exciting announcement about how it connects to Nova Scotia.
Okay, yeah. Now. So in our company value, we really have giving back and being in our community is very important for us. In Quebec, our cause is arts and culture. We've started Nucleus Culture to be helping arts and culture organizations in Quebec, and we're giving back 1% of all our earnings. So not profit, just 1% of our revenues, directly as direct donations. They're not sponsorship, it's just donations to the arts and culture community in Montreal and in Quebec in general. So I'm really invested with different causes, I'm the co-chair of the Young Philanthropist Circle at the Museum of Fine Arts of Montreal. We're doing a lot, I think, to be in that space. And when we came here, we had the same kind of thinking of where are we going to put that 1%? So 1% of our revenues that we make in Nova Scotia is going to go back in donation to Nova Scotia as well. So we actually, we're thinking where is that money going to go? Arts and culture is very strong for us in Quebec, but here it's not that arts and culture is not strong here, but I felt like we could also go with another route and find another cause that was really worthy of us. And so we really want to be going with growing the next tech generation. For us, it's something that we see here. You guys are investing a lot of time, a lot of money into that, building the next generation of tech in Nova Scotia. We can see it with the Ocean Supercluster, everything that's coming up, the government announcement that you guys have been having in the past years. So we can see that it's something is going on. So we want to be able to give to that. So we're going to start a partnership at first with Techsploration.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah.
So
love the team
that we also met at a DNS Mixer.
Fantastic.
A great place to meet people.
And if that's not a shameless plug, I don't know
I'll
what
accept
is.
it. Yeah, Natasha and her team, Natasha Snow, met them, volunteered. I have 2 young girls, myself, 3 and 1, and the work that they do by, empowering young girls to be able to get comfortable speaking in public and pairing up with mentors from various industries to be able to then, give them the confidence to dive into that as they are going on into sort of high school and university or any other sort of post-secondary education, I think is fantastic. So love that organization.
Yeah, big shout out to Techsploration. The work that they do is just incredible. And big shout out to you guys for just making that connection in general and being able to, create this partnership and ultimately work together in the future. But also obviously that giving back is so incredible. And it really speaks to, again, like we say, just that effort that you guys are making to be part of the Nova Scotia fabric, the community that we have here. I know it's it means a lot to us here in the province, I know.
I think it's very important, and it's a first partnership that I'm still gonna have to tell them I just plugged them on this podcast because they don't know it yet. So
You still got a little bit of time before this goes to air. So
I know you're checking your phone like, was I allowed to say
yeah,
that?
but no, but I mean it's fine. We'll be supporting them. We'll be giving them a lot of time and also some donation, and we'll be looking for also other causes that we can support here because I think it's very important for us. But yeah, so I just want to give a bit of why we chose Texploration.
Yeah, please
I think
do.
it's very important because they basically work with young women and gender diverse kids, and they bring role models in different kind of fields, so science, tech, trade, to actually bring them to learn about what they do and to develop an interest in those fields. And by doing so, they're actually helping those young women and gender diverse kids to be able to see a different path that they might have. So they work a lot outside of Halifax as well, because in a big city you're in contact with a lot of
Yes, the opportunities
people,
are
right?
more
The opportunities that they
robust.
have,
Yeah.
and you can see different kind of work. But when you go to rural communities, maybe you have less people working in deep tech around you. You have less people working in trades. You have less people working in science. So being able to have that contact at a young age is really giving those young women and gender diverse kids a chance to see themselves in the future in those careers. And we really believe that it's great. It's a great cause to be investing in. And maybe we'll hire some of those young women in 15 years, 20 years. So who knows?
I love that.
amazing.
Do you know what's really funny? This is like the work, because I know you spoke at one of their events.
I got to judge one of
you got to-
their
that was what it was.
competitions.
Yes.
It was amazing. So I was the only male participant in this entire event. So it was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
The kids were amazing. And when you go to one of their events, they'll one of the leaders will say Texploration, and the entire gymnasium of kids will say rocks and clap at the same time. First time it scared me. I wasn't sure what to expect. But then every time they would say it, I got so excited because it just fires you right up.
Yeah. My first experience with them was actually when I was an intern in a former life. I worked in news, and I was interning for a station, and I was out doing a story. And it was this entire young female team. They were all from the captain all the way to the crew. They were manning one of the tugboats in our harbor. And so they invited me onto the boat. I got to see kind of, a day in the life of what they get to do. And just that, for me, it's like a full circle moment that it's, back then I was like, wow, like I want to get involved in this somehow. Like I want to, at some point, maybe later in my life, come back to this and be able to, kind of spread the word of what they do. And I feel like in a very, roundabout way, that's kind of what I'm getting to do by being able to kind of share what they, what they are doing. And it's great to see that they're not only, they've not only survived all that time, because it wasn't yesterday when I was doing that story as an intern, but they're, they're not just surviving, they're thriving clearly. And obviously they're making waves enough for you guys to notice as well.
And they do need more support. So
Yes.
you can go on their website, contact them, make a donation, help them any way they can. They're looking for that.
Amazing. Okay. Well, I'm excited to see that partnership grow as well. We're kind of coming to the end of the clock here. So I think really the next biggest question is just, what is next for Nucleus? Like, are you guys, are you looking at doing some more hiring here in the province? Or, what does the future, kind of in the somewhat near future look like for you guys?
So for sure, we're on a growth path. We want to be able to reach new clients and help them grow. And in Nova Scotia, we're starting slowly to expand. So we have our first clients here. We hired, you talked about Irene, so we hired Irene to join our team and help us spread the word and get more people on board. And as we'll be growing, we'll be looking to onboard new people from here as well. We already have 2 people on the track to be hired in Halifax, 2 developers. And the good thing is that they can actually help us with projects here, but they can also work with projects with our team in Montreal, with projects outside of the province. So we're really trying to create that kind of synergy between the 2 cities. And so I don't know what's going to happen next. There's a lot of things that are depending on if people answer yes to our
Your LinkedIn messages.
LinkedIn messages, exactly. But we're really looking to be able to create new partnerships, really expand our presence here in Nova Scotia, but also outside of Nova Scotia. So we're already looking at other Atlantic provinces, and now Halifax can be a base for us to actually have an Atlantic presence all over the place.
Absolutely, and we're going to do whatever we can to support and also to showcase a lot of the amazing work that's being done all across the province. You know, whether it be up in Sydney, Cape Breton, we have a new member of our team who's up there now, and an amazing tech community that's there, but as well as in some other growing spaces like I think of Mahone Bay, for example, has
South
some
Shore
amazing
is
tech
really
companies
booming.
that are growing. But and then some spread all across some of the rural areas. We're seeing such growth. So a lot being done here, central in Nova Scotia, but as well in the rural areas, there is some untapped potential across the province that hopefully will be able to be explored by you guys as well.
And you guys are doing a fantastic job at that. I have to say,
you.
being a member of DNS, we didn't know what to expect at first, but you guys are very active. There's a lot of events, a lot of things coming up. Sometimes me and my team were wondering how are they able to do all of that with such a small team? And I think really props to you guys. You are doing a fantastic job. And from a company coming from outside Nova Scotia, being able to work with DNS and your network has really, really made a change for us. And so I encourage everyone listening who's not a member to actually join you guys. Another plug for you.
I was
That's
going to say,
amazing.
and
Yeah,
I'm chopping that clip.
I was going to say that one's going up on the LinkedIn.
That's
for
getting
sure.
That's getting a full feed post.
Yeah.
But thank you. I mean, it's obviously what we're trying to do, and when we hear things like that, it feels so good that we're accomplishing it. We're trying to, right? Like, it's really nice to hear from our members that we are making a difference, that we can make those connections for you guys that ultimately lead to you bringing your company here and wanting to put down roots here with us. So it really does mean the world that you're A, here, and B, willing to share your journey with us and the very kind words as well. So
Cheers to that.
thank you for making the time.
Always a pleasure. Thank you so much, Clement. And for everyone listening, I encourage you to meet with Clement and Alexi and their team at any of our upcoming events. This might air after our upcoming holiday mixer, which is going to be December 12th. But if not, check it out. You'll see it in our social channels, and encourage you to reach out on LinkedIn to Nucleus as well.
Absolutely. Make sure you check those LinkedIn DMs because this guy might be in them.
All right.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Clement.
Pleasure. Have a good one.
All right.
Nice.
Recorded by This Is Marketing on Blanding Branding since 2015.